Grace Thompson sat on the porch of her home in a small Tennessee town, the early morning sun casting a golden glow over her garden. At 72, she'd lived through life's highs and lows, raising 3 kids, enduring a tough divorce, and working over 30 years at the local library. Now, with her rocking chair creaking softly beneath her, she sipped her coffee and smiled. She wasn't just growing old, she was living fully in what she called her silver years, the most meaningful time of her life. It hadn't always been this way. When she turned 70, Grace felt the weight of time bearing down. Her knees ached, her energy faded, and the house grew too quiet after her youngest moved to Chicago for work. She'd heard the saying, "Life's a long journey, and old age isn't the end," but back then, it rang hollow. Friends her age were slowing down, some battling endless doctor visits, others lonely as their kids got caught up in busy lives. Grace wondered if her best days were behind her. Then came a turning point. One crisp fall afternoon, she overheard her neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, and spry 85-year-old, laughing with his wife over tea on their porch. Grace watched them, curious. How did they stay so vibrant? She decided to ask. Mr. Jenkins grinned and said, "Grace, it's simple. You've got to keep moving, keep loving, and keep your wits sharp. The years from 70 to 75? They're the gatekeepers. Get through those strong and clear-headed, and you've got a shot at 90. His words stuck with her. Grace realized she didn't just want to live long, she wanted to live well. So, she set out to make her silver years shine. She started with her health, the foundation of it all. She'd read somewhere, a healthy person has 1,000 dreams, but a sick person has just one, to get well. She didn't want to be that person. So, she swapped greasy takeout for home-cooked meals. Lots of greens, less salt, and a tall glass of water with every plate. She began walking around the block each morning, slow at first, then faster as her legs regained strength. Some days, she'd even stretch a little in the living room, chuckling at how she must look to the cat. The difference was striking. At 70, she'd struggled to carry groceries. Now, at 72, she hauled them in herself, cooked her own dinners, and swept the porch without a twinge in her back. If I can do this, she'd tell herself, I'm not a burden to anyone. That's freedom. And freedom felt good. Then there was Tom, her partner of 15 years. He wasn't perfect. Lord knows he left dishes in the sink and grumbled about her fancy vegetable soups, but he was hers. Grace remembered Mrs. Jenkins saying, "You don't need a mansion or millions, just someone to sip tea and talk with." She and Tom had their spats, sure. He'd mutter about her nagging. She'd roll her eyes at his stubbornness. But one evening, as they sat watching the sunset, she thought, what if he weren't here? The silence would have been deafening. So, she started cherishing the little things, his off-key humming, their quiet chats over coffee. 2 people, even in a simple home, made it warmer than one alone ever could. Grace also learned to keep her mind sharp. She'd heard too many stories. Folks her age tricked into buying overpriced miracle supplements or roped into shady investments. One day, a slick salesman knocked, pitching a life-changing tonic for $200. She almost fell for it until she recalled Mr. Jenkins' advice. Don't let anyone fool you, Grace. Stay sharp up here. She tapped her temple, thanked the man, and shut the door. Later, she checked with her doctor, no tonic needed. That victory wasn't just about saving money, It was about keeping her dignity. "I've worked too hard to let anyone take advantage of me," she said aloud, proud. As months turned to years, Grace's silver years blossomed. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. At 73, she joined a local walking group, folks over 50 who swapped stories as they strolled. She planted tomatoes in her garden, sharing the harvest with Tom and the neighbors. She even started a book club at the library, her mind buzzing with new ideas. Her kids noticed the change too. "Mom, you're happier than ever," her daughter said during a visit. Grace just smiled. "I've got my health, my Tom, and my wits. That's enough." One morning, rocking on her porch, Grace reflected on her journey. Old age wasn't a finish line. It was a chance to live slower, deeper, better. She'd made it past the gatekeeper years, strong and clear-headed, with a shot at 80, maybe 90. But it wasn't the years that mattered, it was the life in them. Happiness came from the small stuff. Walking without a cane, laughing with Tom, saying no to a scam. It came from knowing she wasn't a burden, but a gift to herself, her family, the world. So, to anyone over 50 listening, Grace would say, your silver years are yours to shape. Feed your body right, move it every day, hold tight to the ones you love, and don't let anyone dim your spark. You've got wisdom, grit, and time, use them. Make these years the ones you'll smile about later. I did, and I'm still here, rocking away. And with that, she took another sip of coffee, the sun climbing higher, her heart full.